here we go. Is anybody's book? I can't remember. I'm reading. I've been like, I finally gotten over my slump of reading, and I actually read like 4 books this week. So it was a stellar week for me. I can't wait, and I can't wait to read Wolf at the Table, Julia. I can't wait for that one. But who is Safe and Sound? Anybody's? I can't remember who published that one. No, doesn't sound like any of yours. Anyways, pretty good. I love it when authors come. We just hosted last week Colin McCann, who was amazing. And I am absolutely an evangelist for that book, American Mother. Everybody just needs to read it. It's Diane Foley's story, but told in the beautiful hands of Colin McCann. I mean, he just is an amazing writer, and he just writes the most compelling story about her and her son. Did I talk about this last week? I can't remember. So we had the event last week, right? And if you're going to buy it, please buy it from us, because seriously, it's a little teeny press, and I really don't want to return any of the books to them because I feel so bad. So it's like, so I'm like, just buy them from us. So Jim Foley, I think it was in 2014, is when he was beheaded by ISIS, and one of the convicted killers, part of his plea deal when he pled guilty in the U.S. was that he would meet with the victims' families. So Diane Foley met with him. Yeah, Julia. And Colin McCann was actually in the room. I mean, you could have heard you could have heard a pin drop in the discussion that he was having with this. It was incredible. And so it is just it's her story, and she is just amazing. She is just an amazing human being, that she could, with composure and grace, sit across from this man. And absolutely incredible. But the book is just, it's small. It's, it's a little 250-80 page book. It's a 2-sitting kind of a book, but man, it's powerful. It's so good. It's so good. So we were asking Liz earlier what I was doing. Yeah. So that was our Colin McCann event. Love him.
Yeah. Is this his most recent book since The Magicians?
He wrote
Something in between.
A Paragon was his last one. And then
I got the Colm Toivin. Okay.
Yes, you're thinking of somebody else.
A Paragon. Yeah. No surprise, this storyline, because A Paragon had that same
correct
line, the Palestinian and Israeli fathers.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you haven't read that book yet,
I love that book. It's one of my favorite.
It's like, you got to read that one.
Yeah.
But he's got a new book coming, another novel coming. So anyways, lots of good stuff. I'm sorry that Andrea isn't on. I'll talk about this next time she's on. This was a great little book. This is already out. I was on a roll this weekend. So anyways, okay, so I think it's going to be Liz will go first, then Gabe, then Julia, and I think that Amanda, if you let them share screen, I think that you've done that, maybe. If not, can you do that? And we'll start with Liz.
Okie dokie. Let's see how I can get to my shared screen. It's always hard to find it first.
I know.
Let's see. That just says Zoom, right?
Yep. We got your Zoom. There we go.
But this should say the Titanic Survivors Book Club.
Yes. So, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. We're going to host him for a virtual event.
I didn't know.
Yes, we're doing a virtual event for this. Okay, wait. So Amanda will put that in the chat. So,
oh my gosh. So this story is so great. First of all, most of us love a book about the transformative power of books. This is told in the first person. It's the story of Yorick, named by his vaudevillian father after the skull. You may remember that Hamlet holds up, alas, poor Yorick. So that'll set a little bit of a tone. Yorick survived the sinking of the Titanic. This is a novel, by not boarding the ship as planned. As he says, I put a twist in my own plot by not boarding the ship as planned. He had been the apprentice librarian for the White Star Line. His job was to curate the ship's second-class library. But then the day that the Titanic was set to sail, he was left stranded at the dock. So he takes this twist of fate as a sign that he should follow his lifelong dream of owning a bookshop in Paris. Yes, other books have been set in bookshops in Paris, but this is unique in its storyline. So for weeks after the sinking of the Titanic, Yorick had seen his name on the list of those lost at sea. Then his name just disappeared, but he still received a message in a bottle at his bookshop about a year later to join a secret society of Titanic survivors, all of whom had been ticket holders who didn't board the ship. Haunted by their good fortune, they form a book club where they can grapple with their own anxieties through these heated discussions of books like The Awakening or The Picture of Dorian Gray. So it's such a fascinating premise. There are tons of literary references, or Easter eggs, as the editor called them, appearing throughout the novel, and it adds a lot of depth and beauty and color to this story. So of this ragtag survivors group, Yorick finds himself particularly drawn to the glamorous Zinnia and the mysterious Hayes. And this is a tangled triangle of love and friendship that ensues and forms between them. All of this with the backdrop of the Great War looming, and also one of their group dies unexpectedly. And so the surviving book club members are left wondering what fate might have in store for them. So this, is a natural for book clubs. It's so much fun to read. There's going to be a discussion guide, a book club kit, and all sorts of resources for discussion. And the author, Timothy Schaffert, wrote The Perfume Thief, which is popular, Swan and Gondola, also really wonderful novel. So if you haven't read him yet, this is a great one to start with.
Can't wait. And we're going to, let me take you off of,
I'll stop share.
Oh, there you go. Stop share. Oh, I don't have control of that anyways. Yeah, we're gonna host him. I think Amanda did put it in the we're gonna do a virtual event with him. I think it's on Saturday.
Yeah, the book is on sale tomorrow. That's the other.
Yeah. Book's on sale tomorrow, and then we're hosting him on April 13th at noon for a virtual event.
I'll be there.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun one. There he is. Look who's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you didn't lock the door, I guess.
I guess I forgot to lock the door.
I was about to give up.
I guess I forgot to lock the door.
Yeah.
I guess you're just recovering from being here in San Diego for Bruce last week.
Yes. Still recovering, but also preparing for Bruce this week in Los Angeles.
Oh my God, you're killing me. So, have you counted how many times you've gone, Tom?
It's hard to count, but I think it's in the 30s.
Wow.
A lifetime.
A lifetime. I love it. All right.
Anymore.
What did I miss?
Julia, Liz talking about Titanic Survivors Book Club so far. And I talked about American Mother, but that's it. Okay. So now Gabe's going to talk.
Thank you for unlocking the door.
Yes. You're always welcome, Tom. Always. All right, Gabe, what do you got?
So my first book is Hell Put to Shame by Earl Swift. Earl did a book for us many years ago, not that many years ago, Chesapeake Requiem, which was a story of the Chesapeake area, the Bay Area, the waters, the pollution, the damage done to the ecosystem and the environment. And he put together one of those really, top drawer nonfiction, well-paced narratives full of information and little known facts. And now he's turning his attention to peonage in the United States, which we ended slavery in 1865, 1865. Then peonage became illegal in 1867. And the case that Earl is writing about is a case that took place in 1921. Well, the bodies were found in 1921. And it was southern Georgia. There was a farm, and like they do on BBC or any TV show when they, the kid's out walking the dog or something and he trips upon a body and they find a body. And as they dig around, they find another body. Then they find a third body. And then they find 8 more bodies that were weighted down. The first 2 bodies were chained together, and then 100-pound block of 100-pound sack was attached to them. Then they found a third body, and so on. So they came up with 11 bodies all told. And it turns out that this white farm owner had essentially, the term is peonage, but essentially he had enslaved human beings because they owed him a debt. And it was apparently a very common way of getting a debt paid back, even though it was made illegal right after slavery. So this is a story that is really forgotten. It is the farmer, the landowner was John S. Williams, very well known for his aggressive acts towards blacks in the South. And then we have the heroes of the story, which is a young um, president of the NAACP, who came on board, James Weldon, who was a polymath, black academic. And then there was a lot of Walter F. White was his investigator, and he was this light-skinned black man with blue eyes who went to the lynching sites, dug up a lot of information, sort of immersed himself in the community and gathered evidence that way. So there's a really tense plot line running through this book. It is a really horrific story of how casually Black lives were treated. They did not matter at all in Jim Crow South. And you're thinking like 50 years after slavery was supposed to be over, this is going on. And then you're going down the rabbit hole with the internet. This went on in America, a lot of different Florida, of course, Florida brought a bunch of people from the north down. They had to pay their way down. They were offered jobs on the railroad. They had to pay their way down. Then they had to earn their money back by working on the railroad that was going through the Keys. So they were like just trapped. You couldn't escape. You couldn't get out. So it was a very popular form of debt collecting and enslaving of people. And the debt just keeps increasing because now I'm feeding you. Now we got a roof over your head. The old company store kind of attitude. But yeah, apparently very popular. No surprise, Southern Texas. A lot of Mexican immigrants and blacks were held in peonage. So a real eye opener. You're going to want to read more stuff when you read this book. And as I said, Earl does a really good job getting the message across and telling a really, really well told story.
Oh my God. It's almost, it reminds you of people, I mean, it's different, but Killers of the Flower Moon readers, I think, would gravitate towards this too.
Yeah.
I think is the same kind of read. If you've already read that, this could be the next sort of thing. The other one that it reminded me of, which was a novel, and Julie, I think it's yours, is Delicious Foods by James Hallinan, I think.
Maybe Hanrahan.
Hanahan, maybe.
Oh, Hanahan. Yeah, I think that's right.
Hanahan. Oh my God, that book was intense, and it's a sort of the same thing. Indentured servitude. It's just intense. So good stuff. Good one, Gabe. All right, Julia, what you got?
Mine's completely different, and please forgive me that I'm getting over a bit of a cold. So my voice is a little scratchy. But tomorrow we have Abby Jimenez's new book, Just for the Summer. Warwick says signed copies of this. So I know in Southern California we're a little not as sunny as I would hope to be when a book like this comes out, because all you want to do is like sit on the porch and read this. But Abby Jimenez really hit it big and became a New York Times bestseller with her previous book, Yours Truly. And this is it's a romance. It's super fun. It's about these two people who meet when one of them posts, excuse my language, but one of those "Am I the Asshole" Reddit threads. and the other one has had the exact same thing happen to them, and they start talking and maybe start flirting a little bit. And she's a traveling nurse, and she ends up going sort of to where he is to work as a nurse for a few months. And of course, things go from there. It is a delightful book. I read it almost entirely one day when I was reading for a meeting at the Earth Cafe. I just was like so engrossed in it, I almost missed my meeting. And I just can't say enough great things about Abby Jimenez. This is an Indie Next pick for the month. It's just such a fun book. It's like, I love a book like this because I can just like kind of get lost in it for, a few hours. I'm a fast reader, so a few hours, and it gives you everything you want. So.
And Arlene is on here totally concurring with you. She said this might be Abby's best book yet, and she loved it. So.
Oh, good. Oh, yay.
There you go.
Yay. So yeah, Warwick's, like I said, Warwick's has signed copies available. So grab those before they go away.
Yep. I think she was at one of the festival books, I think. I could be wrong, but if I'm thinking of the right person.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think she was. Yeah.
She's wonderful. Okay. All right, Tom, you might have a book or two that's a big book tomorrow too, huh?
Yeah, that would be Amor Towles, Table for Two. It'll be one of our biggest books of the year, and it's on sale tomorrow. So it's a collection, we call it Fictions. It's a collection of stories, 6 stories, primarily set in New York, and then a novella. So the stories are each one, because it's Amor, each one is completely satisfying in itself, and you just can't wait to take in the next one, although you kind of want to take it slowly because they go by fast. You just gulp them down, but they're mostly set in New York, and their marriages, different points of view of marriages, but couples obviously Table for Two play a big role in each of the stories. There's a great one about book forgery, forging the author's names in books in a bookstore in New York. So they're just complete entertainments. And then Even Hollywood is a novella. So that's maybe 200 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you read Rules of Civility, and I assume everyone did, this is Eve from the character Eve from from Rules of Civility, who is at the end of that book, she's on a train back to the Midwest, but she doesn't get off the train. She stays on the train all the way to Los Angeles. So you have the New York stories, and then you have the novella set in Los Angeles, 1938, around the time of the making of Gone with the Wind. And it is a complete, it's not a novel, but it feels like a novel. It's so good, told from different perspectives. You can tell Amor's playing around with like film noir, that kind of feel with Eve. It's just got all of the trademarks, the wit, the perfect construction. And then because Amor's Amor, he has planted in these stories and in Even Hollywood, there are characters who will appear in the next novel, which will come in a couple of years probably. So there's always these interesting connections that he loves to play with. So it's fantastic. If you love Amor, even if you feel like I'm not a short story reader, it's okay. You'll love these. The LA Times, the reviews are just starting to run. The LA Times said, each tale is as satisfying as a master chef's main course, filled with drama, wit, erudition, and most of all, heart. So can't recommend highly enough Table for Two, on sale tomorrow. And then I started watching on Paramount Plus, A Gentleman in Moscow. So Amor is having another moment, but it just started last week. The first episode was great.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know it was on yet. Okay, so it is on.
They've only put out one so far.
Okay. I've got to go find that. Yeah.
Because
that's what I love about his writing too. Because the first story in the book takes place in Russia, the very first one.
Yeah.
And he just writes about
ends in New York.
In New York. It does end up in New York. Yeah. But he does write about Russia in such a way that it's just amazing. I mean, he's just so good. And yes, Darcy was on here. So 2 things. We are hosting Amor on April, I want to say 16th. He'll be down here. And so if you're anywhere near San Diego, LA, wherever you're come and see him. He's always an amazing person to listen to in person. And then yes, Darcy, I think Rules of Civility was when back in the day Warwick's did a first editions club. I think we were one of the first stores that did a
Oh,
first
that's
edition.
right.
I think Rules of Civility was our first
Yes.
one.
Yep,
Yeah.
you're right. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
But then it just got to be managing that was just a whole other, you're gonna have a
Right.
full-time job managing that thing.
But
Trying to go for
but readers have been trusting Warwick's for a very long time.
so we should have named this. You heard it here first. We're giving you some good stuff to read. All right, Liz, what next do you have?
I next have a National Poetry Month, a book I'm championing. So this is, can you see my book?
Not the second. There it is. There it is. Yep. Now I got it.
Ranjakura. So yes, happy National Poetry Month. I hope everyone signed up for Knopf's Poem a Day. You can go to knopfpoemaday.com or just Google it, and you'll get a poem every day in your inbox. Today's is a beautiful poem by Kevin Young. I think I've talked about his book Stones before here. But today I want to talk about a book that goes on sale on April 9th. And this is by a Maori poet. She lives in New Zealand, but she is touring here. And this is her second collection. She's a poet that Joy Harjo says is one of the most startling and original poets of her generation. I heard her read from her first collection, Pocahontas, last year, and I totally agree. She's a major talent, a poet to watch, and just so much energy in this. You know, I'm always like, if you're not a poetry lover, this is a book. I try to choose books to talk about in these tea times for people who are looking for a book to start, you know, reading poetry with. And so she, Tai, in a recent interview, when she was asked why she wanted to become a writer or when she wanted to become a writer, and she said at the age of 8, she said, I always wanted to sit around with my grandparents, my Nana especially, and hear her stories. I feel like I was almost being trained to listen so I could write about them one day and pass them on. The title means Learning from the Red Sky in Maori. It's a coming of age collection. It's an elegy to the traumas born from colonization, especially the violence against Indigenous women, as well as climate change, speaking to herself in these poems and sometimes to the reader. It imagines the end of the world, but also a new day. So these poems invite us into the nostalgia and also exhaustion produced in the pursuit of an endless summer. That's a quote from the editor, who is John Freeman. And a lot of us know and follow John Freeman's books because he's such a good, he's such an amazing editor. So this, I love this line from the poem, from the book. My heart goes out like an abandoned swan boat ghosting along a lake. It's very evocative, gorgeous collection. I encourage you to try it.
And I think that you're so right. It's always nice to have something that doesn't intimidate people. If you could take us off screen share, because I can't. That's you know, that's inviting, that's like I said, not intimidate, because I do think some people are intimidated to jump in sometimes.
Yeah, they are. And I wanted to say that it's a really good poetry collection for young people who might, you know, think Rupi Kapoor and, you know, are reading a lot of Instagram poets and looking for something maybe a little deeper. And also because of the multi-generational aspect to it and the honoring of elders and these more serious topics, I just feel like a lot of different kinds of readers would and ages would gravitate to it and like appreciate it.
And it's a great package. Cover's great.
Yeah, I love that they've kept the same artist.
Yeah, really good. Okay, Gabe.
Unmuted, ready to roll. So I had a lot of books to choose from, and you know what? I just like this cover. I love the colors on this cover. I like the font on the cover, and it was between this and something else. The other one's going to get a lot of attention too. Anyways, one of America's Sweethearts, Valerie Bertelli. new cookbook. You know, she's had a show on the cooking channel, the Food Network, before, a couple different shows. She's hosted some other shows, so she's a food person. Obviously, she likes food. This is 100 recipes, and they're real basic, uh, simple in a lot of cases, but celebratory and indulgent, and get good ingredients. And it's not just about like fat and butter. You know, it's
Right.
about fresh ingredients, hit the farmer's market, see what's seasonal. She pushes you in that direction. And then just some real basic, fun, easy recipes that that are very satisfying when all is said and done at the end of the meal. So it is out tomorrow. She's going to be at Warwick's
The 9th.
the 9th.
Well, we're taking her down to USD. She'll be at USD.
Right, at USD. But yeah, so be on the lookout. I think it's a nice gift cookbook. It's a nice host gift.
Yeah.
At a dinner party. Who doesn't love Valerie Bertelli?
And a little signed copy is a great hostess book. And I mean, I think there's some doesn't she intersperse the recipes with like essays and stuff?
There's a lot of there's conversation about
right.
Living your best life, basically, kind of
right. Yeah. And I can't wait. So she's another one of those, like when we hosted Andrew McCarthy, it's just like throwback to some of these like 70s, 80s people are so much fun. And so can't wait to meet her. So she'll be fun. And so again, we're hosting all kinds of good people. Amor on the 16th, on the 9th. If you're anywhere near town, come and see us, and Valerie. She'll be great. All right, Julia.
Okie doke. I have another big one. This one, another novel. Oops, sorry. Let me get to it. This is Julia Alvarez's The Cemetery of Untold Stories. This is brand new, out tomorrow. Julia Alvarez, probably her most famous novel is How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accents, but is just such a wonderful novelist. All of her novels, great. She is so good. This one I absolutely loved. She talked to us. This is also an Indie Next pick for the month, and just got an absolute rave review in the New York Times this morning. Anyway, but Julia Alvarez, what's so great about that book, The Cemetery of Untold Stories, is she thought, she started writing it during the pandemic and thought, this is probably going to be like my last book. She's in her 80s. She was like, this might be the end. Who knows? The world, you know how we all felt. The world is ending. I might die tomorrow. This might be the last book. She now, I think, does not think that, but it is sort of written in that way. And in doing so, it's sort of a love letter to writing in a way. It's about a novelist who starts to gain a lot of fame and becomes a kind of big novelist. And as many novelists do, she starts to, sort of shed some of the stories that she was working on, and maybe she's not going to continue working on. Maybe she had an idea for something and it's not really going to work. And she starts burying those stories in her backyard, and the characters of those stories start haunting not just her and her life, but start haunting sort of the world around her. And it is just a stunningly good novel. It is so much fun to read. Excuse me. And it is, it's definitely magical realist. It's just beautiful. So she's a beautiful writer. This is a beautiful novel, maybe one of her best. And I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Anytime you have, I know your poor cough. Sorry. Sorry. Anytime you have a novel coming from her is a big deal. But that cover is okay. I couldn't really see, but is there something going? Is it what's going in her mouth? Is that? I was just like, oh my God, that cover is something else.
Right. Yeah. I think it's growing out of her mouth and sort of growing up and around.
Okay. I see it. Okay. I see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a great cover. Yeah. Big deal that she's got a book coming out. So thank you. Yeah. Lots of big stuff.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Lots of big stuff this week. Okay, Tom.
All right. So my next book out tomorrow, or no, it was out last week. I missed last week. So it's Paris, California by Rachel Stark. So this is I adore this novel. This is going to be a discovery. This is one of those discoveries that I hope listeners, watchers discover, because it's one of the most affecting novels I've read in a long time. So it's set, as the title says, in Paris, California, which is in Riverside County. A place that is not, so I take you from Amor Towles, the glittering Manhattan and Hollywood, to Paris, which is in many ways, a forgotten part of California, like a lot of places around the country, forgotten. But there are people in those places who are doing the best they can, living their lives, supporting each other. So that's what this is. That's the setting. That's the heart of the book. So Tessa is the main character. It opens, I should warn readers that it opens with a scene of her escaping domestic violence, like terrible, abusive stepfather and stepbrother, which is really harrowing, that scene. And then it takes us to that's from her a little bit in the past. And then it takes us to her present, where she's married, she has kids, but she's still thinking about in high school. She fell in love with one of her friends, a girl, and that was quickly shut down by the families. But now Mel, that girl, now a woman, has come back to town, which has brought up a lot of feelings for Tessa. So she's in this really complicated moment where she's married with a family, and not exactly, I wouldn't necessarily say happily married, but not unhappily either. But then this real love of her life is there. And then the third woman that's really important is her mother-in-law, who she lives on the grounds of her mother-in-law. Her family does. And these are all strong women that, you just can't, that's the book left me thinking about these characters. I still think about them. Because everything is set in motion by the return of Mel to town. And so it's very gripping, very realistic. It's honest, it's hard, it's so heartfelt. It's a really beautiful book about a forgotten place and forgotten people, living their everyday lives in their place. And it very much has a sense of place. So it's like, I go back many, many decades ago to Bastard Out of Carolina as a comparison, Dorothy Allison's Bastard Out of Carolina. That's a lot of readers of this have mentioned that book. Or even more recently, this is the non-crime version of Ruth Langmore from Ozark. That's the kind of character that all of these women are. So I'll leave you with a quote from Susan Straight, who lives in Riverside. She lives in Riverside. She says, "Paris, California is a remarkable, audacious, and truly original debut. Stark's characters are incandescent in their fierce desire, not just for survival, but love and redemption. This novel will live alongside classics of young womanhood by Kay Gibbons, Helena Maria Viramontes, Maya Angelou, and yes, Dorothy Allison." So this is a book that is going to have to be handed to readers over and over again. It's not like an obvious book, because it's not an easy read either, but it's so rewarding. I was in tears at the end. That's Paris, California by Rachel Stark.
And I just, it's like, I want to uplift debut authors. It's so hard.
I know.
Because like you go from somebody like an Amor or a Julia, and it's like, oh yeah, they got a new book. That's great,
Right.
But then it's like, help these debuts out. Take a chance.
Exactly. And this one affected so many of us at Penguin that, yeah, it's worth the chance.
Yeah, take the chance, read it, because that's how we get the next Amors and the next just by, and the writing is spot on.
She's a beautiful
excellent writer.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me a little bit, not because there were not the same sort of things that happened, but there was a book a while ago called Idaho. And it reminds me a little bit of that, just in the way that it's written.
Well, the other thing, types of stories. What you were saying about debuts, like this, I think this novel 5 years ago, there would be a lot of reviews running right at publication, but the reviews are few and far between. So these debut novels it's hard to read about them, to hear about them. That's
it
why.
is hard. And that's what Chris Bojalian was here. That's what we were talking about. It's just like there's nobody there's no places for people to review anymore.
Yeah.
And there's so few. It's hard. So all right. Thanks, Tom. Okay, Liz, lightning round.
Well, I just wanted to say I'm really excited about Paris, California. It's totally been an in-house buzz book. And I also think your customers, I mean, we want to read about novels set in California. It's, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So my next book is my last book is not a debut. It's a second
Sometimes
book.
those are just as hard or harder.
Yeah, but this is going to be a really exciting publication at the end of this month. So Rachel Khong, I'm sure a lot of your people watching and listening know her. Her debut novel was Goodbye Vitamin. She lives here in California. And this is her new novel. Goodbye Vitamin won the California Book Award. But this is a book that kind of reminds me of Celeste Ng's Our Missing Hearts. There's some elements that those books have in common for sure. So this spans 3 generations in one family, themes of class and race and inheritance. When you open the book, the prologue is very enticing. It involves a legend in China and a stolen ancient lotus seed. But the novel itself opens on the edge of Y2K in 1999 New York City, where 22-year-old Lily Chen, she's an unpaid intern, seemingly, you know, exploited in the way unpaid interns can be. She's works at this slick media company when she meets Matthew at the company Christmas party. He's the nephew of one of her older co-workers. So Matthew's easygoing, he's gorgeous, he's a native East Coaster, but he's also heir to a vast pharmaceutical empire. So the two of them could not be more different. She's totally broke. She comes from Tampa, Florida. She's the only child of scientists who fled Mao's Cultural Revolution. But they do fall in love and marry, and they have a child. Then we not fast forward, but we skip to 2021. And the narrator of this section is Lily and Matthew's 15-year-old son, Nick. Nick looks like his dad, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, but he doesn't know Matthew. He doesn't know his father or his father's identity or why his father is not in his life. And so Nick's best friend convinces Nick to find his dad. And the book's final section is narrated by May, who is the scientist that Lily has been estranged from since her son's birth, because of this startling, shocking revelation. And that's a total spoil alert, and I won't talk anymore about that, except to say that readers are privy to May's life story in a way that Lily and the other characters may not be. And this story begins in a rural Chinese rice farm. And May has finally achieves her goal of attending university in Beijing until, again, Mao's Cultural Revolution forces her to make an impossible choice. This is so beautifully written. It's easy to read because it's just right from the get-go. It's a really compelling story with these characters. And it's topical. And the question asked really is, can our genetic past be overcome? Another great one for book clubs and readers, as I said, who enjoyed Our Missing Hearts by Celeste. And this was really fun today. Knopf decided to change their Instagram profile picture as a design from the book. So it's another John Friedman. I didn't realize that I had 2 books from this editor, but super excited about this. And I love the quote by Hajin at the top of the screen there.
Yeah, fantastic. And another fantastic package. That book cover is amazing.
Yep.
Really good package. Sounds like a really good one. And it sounds like a really, really good book club book.
Yep.
For book club discussion. So thank you. Okay, Gabe. I think you're muted. having some technical difficulties, Gabe.
But we do love looking at Valerie Bertelli. And
We
that
do.
cover.
She's darling.
Yeah.
How about
Okay.
now?
There you are.
Can
Now
you-
you're back.
Weird. Okay, so paperback edition of the Farewell Tour is out. One of my
Oh my goodness, they totally went. It's a great cut. I love the first one, but this is really good too.
I like this jacket. Yeah, the other cover was
Yeah.
very evocative of the country music with that cool shirt, but this is a very fun package, and I think
Yep.
might serve it better as a paperback. It's a lot of fun. It's a romp. It's a it's a big book. I thought historically it spans from the 30s to the teens, the 20 somethings, and small geographic area, Walla Walla, Washington to Tacoma corridor, right around there. Down and out has been country music. I will say star, but she wasn't really a star. She had a moment, and then she drank and drugged her way out of the spotlight, and decides she's going to do a farewell tour after she has been unproductive for a lot of years. So there's some you're reading it, you're kind of like, it's a little bit tragic. It's very funny at the same time. It's just this picaresque, wide open road novel. And I think it's just a really great characterization of our protagonist. She's just so good and so messed up and kind of trying, but you could see she doesn't have the tools. But she surrounds herself with some good people, and it's a pretty heartwarming story overall after all is said and done with this. And it was just a fun novel to read. Like I said, it felt like a really big, expansive novel, but it was in this little world. So I really, really loved it, and I just wanted to share the paperback for any new viewers.
I'm really glad that you did, because I would not have even suspected that was the same book with the cover, but I love the new cover. It's amazing.
I love it. Yeah.
I love the new cover,
Fun.
but also I loved this book, and it's really a story of the relationship with her sister too. Super interesting, on how that is. So it's a really there's a lot to that book. It's not,
There
there's
is the ones who get away,
yeah, it's really something. So
survivor's guilt. I mean, there's a lot of conversations that you can you can have there. I mean, she's on her own at like 10 or something. So
right. No, that was a good one. And I love Stephanie Clifford. She's lovely. She wrote one of my favorite books a while ago. Everybody Rise. I loved that book. That was good. All right. Okay, Julia.
Okie doke. I'll try to make it through this without choking. This is a fun one. This also comes out tomorrow. This book is called Bourbon Land, a spirited love letter to my old Kentucky whiskey with 50 recipes. And I'm not sure that I discussed it on here or not, but I'm a big bourbon enthusiast. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh, how fun. I'll order myself a copy. And then it came and I had a meltdown. It's so cool. It's like, I really did like freak out. And what's cool is that it's not just a history of bourbon. It's not just the culture of bourbon. What glasses should I use to drink bourbon? It's not just cocktails. It's also recipes with bourbon. It gives you anything you want to know about bourbon. This book has it, and also has great recipes. So I figured right before dinner, I will give you guys this nice recipe book. I made my girlfriend the other night. I made roast sweet potatoes with miso bourbon butter. That were so good. Some of the more complicated ones I haven't made yet, just because I've been a little busy. But it's just, and you can see in my copy right here, like these are all the recipes that I have. I'm like, okay, these are what we're making. The ones that are a little further out are like must make immediately. And so
You have a scale.
I have a sliding scale of the recipes I'll be making. Anyway, so it's just a great book, and I think a gift book, like maybe for, I don't know, I don't want to gender bourbon, Mother's Day or Father's Day, both coming up. And I think that, like, also if you're a bourbon enthusiast, it's a great one. If you have no idea, but you're like, that's something I wanted to get into, it's a great starting place. Like, there's so much information in it. I did the Kentucky Bourbon Trail when I turned 30, and learned a ton about bourbon. And this is a great, I will tell you, this is a great, not just intro, but also if you already know about it, it's a great companion to have. So really, really fun cookbook.
And it looks like it looks beautiful too. It looks like it's a really good package. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's artisan, which you can kind of never go with.
Artisan is awesome.
Yeah, this is all debossed spot gloss, and then this is like a foil stamp. It's gorgeous, and it's hefty, and it takes my shit in the kitchen where I spill things on it and do things. So
right, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh no, and that's like you said, a good gift, but it's a me gift kind of a book too.
That's true.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
That's the me gifting.
Mhm.
All right, Tom.
All right. My lightning round is how to solve your own murder. This is
wait, before you start talking about it, are any of you watching the Jimmy Fallon thing?
No.
Okay, Jimmy Fallon did the Sweet 16, and he put this, and that's one of the books that made it.
I haven't watched it, but I heard it was part of the. So has it gotten down? Do you know?
No, well, he's at the Elite 8 right now. So that's one of the Elite 8. So it went from 16 to 8, and now we're voting right now. So that's one of them.
All right, I got to get on that. I'll start getting on Jimmy Fallon.
It's a Jimmy Fallon book club. You can look on an Instagram, and then you can take it to your. It's really fun. It's just he's got some, and he actually picked some really good books. Wide range. I was pretty impressed with the 16 that he started with. We're really good.
This goes to what we're talking about. I'll take anything that elevates books, all the good books, right?
Exactly. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was like,
no, interrupt away. I'm glad you did. It's also this last week or this week's Good Morning America Buzz Pick. So there's a lot going on for how to solve your own murder. And you can just tell from the cover, if you're the reader for this book. If you're a Richard Osman reader, it's for you. So it starts off in 1965. A fortune teller tells a very young Frances, teenage Frances, that one day she'll be murdered. So she spends like the next year worrying, thinking, how is this going to happen? Within a year, a good friend of hers, Emily, is missing. And, that freaks her out. Then we cut to present day, and Annie is Frances is her great aunt. So Frances has lived a long life until all of a sudden Frances dies. And so it's about the young girls, Annie's investigation of what happened to both Frances and Emily. She digs through all of the sleuthing that her great aunt had done. So it's really like fun and set it up. So it's got all those things. It's got a little bit of Agatha Christie, Anthony Horowitz. It's set in an quaint English village called Castle Knoll. This is the beginning of a series, the Castle Knoll series. So amateur sleuths, quaint English village, a spooky home, and a double homicide over 2 timelines. So who could resist how to solve your own murder?
Love it.
Sounds fun.
It's got everything.
Yeah, it does.
It's got everything. I love it. Yeah, no, the Jimmy Fallon thing was really fun. So
I'm going to check that out for sure.
Made it to the next round. So, wow, lots of good books this week. More is coming this month. I mean, I see what's coming, and it's just like y'all got some great books coming up too. So, we're going to keep everybody that watches Tea Time busy with their to be read piles.
That's right. A little something for every kind of reader for sure.
Oh, this week for sure. You guys got it covered. We got everybody covered this week. All right. I think that's it. Check out Warwick's website with lots of more info about other events that we got coming up. I can't wait for this one too. We got Ronda Rousey coming to the store on April 19th. I can't wait. Okay, just saying. She's not going to tell you. She's just doing a photo op kind of thing, but I still think it's going to be great. Can't wait. All right, Amanda, you can take us off. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.